ओके, शुरू करो। Hi everyone. Welcome to Parsi Club's Friday Night Live. And we're very, very lucky to have Jill with us today. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you so much for having me.
So it's my honor and privilege to introduce Jill to you. I spent a couple of days talking to Jill, and her infectious enthusiasm, her permanent smile, and her wonderful positive energy is just so wonderful to be around. And I'm so glad she's here to talk to us and share with us today. I'm just going to introduce Jill. Jill, here we go.
Here we go.
Um, Jill is a life coach who's married and settled in India. She's actually married her sweetheart, who is an Indian. Jill is from America. They met in America, right, Jill?
Correct.
And they've moved to India. She studied as an engineer. She became a science teacher and then an educational leader. And then, Jill, you left it all, right? And you've decided to become a life coach, a transformational coach, and you use various emotional and physical healing modalities. I'm going to read it out because I'm scared I'm going to get it wrong. And I'm going to talk really fast because I'm super excited. She uses meditation, training, and wisdom traditions from all around the world. And it's so amazing that you bring all these learnings together and you're able to offer people, really unique and a really wholesome perspective on the way one's energies and thoughts should flow. Jill, in her vision for her work, says she likes to contribute to raising the consciousness of individuals and thus to a happier, healthier, and more balanced life. She thinks of it as a ripple effect where her clients transform their mindset, their views, and they awaken to themselves. Their authentic potential becomes a positive contribution to the world. That's such a special and lovely thought, Jill. It's just like, you know, during this lockdown, I myself have been going through so many thoughts and, wondering, and my mind has been flowing in all directions. And I think this Parsi community too, all of us have been, wondering what's happening, where are we going, are we doing the right thing by thinking on certain lines? Are we living our lives in the correct manner? Everyone's a bit lost and confused. When this lockdown started, my mom started these events, on Zoom, just like we are doing today. And it started off with, and she's not even a tech person, and she started off with her committee, and there are a bunch of young, enthusiastic, and really committed people. And they've all been doing an amazing, amazing job. But what I wanted to say was that she said, let's do these events and let's do them regularly. And I was like, that's a great idea. But the thought of it was just to sit in the evening and just do some basic hand holding, hold everyone's hands and stay connected and stay united. And our community is really special. And everyone is really, really close. I mean, I have many fathers and many uncles and many mothers and many aunts here, and a whole bunch of brothers and sisters who I love dearly. And it has been such a bearable and pleasant lockdown because we're all so connected and they're all so close. So when I heard of mental health and the whole topic, and I got to speak to you a little bit, I thought this would be a great evening for everyone to kind of open up and hear other people's stories, and how we kind of come together and how we live our best possible, our happy, fulfilling lives. So Jill, over to you.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And I have felt this energy that you share about your family. The Calcutta Parsi Club is really, it's a family that comes together and really cares about each other. And that's actually has been my first impression. So thank you so much for bringing me into the family, to the living room. This is like our new evening living rooms. We're sharing the collective living room together. But thank you so much. The energy that you have shared approaching me, the sincerity, the care, the kindness, is really a deep sense of connection that I feel as you spoke to between all of you. So it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, because when we talk about what's happening right now, it's difficult. It's not easy. So I appreciate you opening up the discussion and considering, mental wellness, mental health, mental well-being. So I really hope that the conversation today can be fruitful for everyone. So I'll just take it from here.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. So hi, everyone. My name is Jill. It's just a pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you so much for coming to the call and joining in. I hope it is a sincere and interesting conversation that we're going to be having in the community. So I just wanted to start out by sharing a little bit about what coaching is. And some of you might be familiar and maybe it's new for some of you. So basically, coaching is traditionally a one-on-one conversation between two individuals, so I and a client, and we would be really coming together in a partnership, coming together to kind of invoke some discovery, inquiry, creativity, really looking and exploring together and hoping to bring out whatever potential is there that lie dormant, whatever opportunity or choices that might be possible. So in that, it's a very intimate setting, it's highly confidential. So I really give kudos to those of you who will be coming on tonight to be able to have an open discussion. So yeah, it's a very intimate relationship that you have. Many coaching relationships do last months and years, and as life keeps flowing and things keep coming at us, much like this circumstance that we do find ourselves in right now. So, well, coaching is relatively new. It's been around for, I think they're celebrating 25 years now but it's quite a new industry. It's part of the wellness area. But yeah, it's kind of new, but I'd have to say it's catching on. Yes, it's catching on in India. There are a lot of opportunities, and I'll share that at the end of the show if that's okay, with anyone that might be curious about the work. There are some opportunities that have opened up since lockdown within the coach community that give people an opportunity to experience coaching for themselves. So I'll share that at the end of the show. But yeah, without further ado here, before we get into our first conversation, you know, what I really heard from everyone that I spoke to before this call was a deep concern about the circumstances that we're all facing and that are very real and now are they're continuing on, and we don't see exactly an end in sight. So this conversation was really with this intention of pulling together and seeing how do we, look at the situation, how are we perceiving it, how are we managing it both internally, maybe our internal emotions, but also how are we seeing it on the external? What is our viewpoint that we're taking to the circumstances? So yeah, this idea that can we share our stories? Can we share our individual experiences with each other in the hopes of maybe providing some little glimmer of, option or opportunity that might be there? Because I think everyone in this time has struggled. And sometimes we need to be reminded that we're not the only ones that it might be struggling with the changes that kind of happens at a dime lately, doesn't it? Yeah. Really quickly. So, so yes, what is it you want to share? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so things are really shared, it's kind of day by day, week by week. So we just kind of wanted to open up the discussion and see how different people in different age brackets, different life circumstances have been going through lockdown, and look at how maybe they're dealing with it, they're perceiving it, they're looking about it. And and through that sharing, maybe we can ask ourselves some of our own questions within ourselves. So that being the premise, kind of want to open up the discussion and see what's there. As a prelude to this, I did bring our guests, I did have a private call with our guests, and I did a small self-discovery exercise with them. And the intention was really to bring to the surface some of our values, which are our priorities, how we make our decisions, what's most important for us, our purpose, a very rough kind of idea of, what are we doing here? A little bit of an existential question. And then we also had this opportunity to look at strengths, our own unique individual strengths. So each of these three gentlemen who are coming on, I don't know if it's a surprise, had an opportunity to just do a little introspection before the call. And this was also kind of to get our guests kind of rooted and centered in themselves, And so when I ask these questions, I'm really hoping that they're going to be speaking from a deeper place within themselves. So usually the conversation is confidential. So I don't know if I can request people's sensitivities before we start the call, that whatever people will be revealing here, that we'll keep it in this forum, and definitely for the benefit of all. Yeah? So I'll just say that much. And I think we can bring in our first guest.
Sure. So it'll be great to welcome on Urvaksh. He is I don't know how, what to say about him. He's such a darling of a boy. He's young. He's been studying, and he's found himself in a place in his life where he's going to tell you what's been happening and where he is. So here we go to our little Urvaksh.
Not that little anymore, but thanks, Anaya. Hi, Jill. Um,
Hi.
so, a little bit about myself. I'm 21 and straight out of school, I joined flight training with Indigo Airlines. I have successfully obtained a commercial pilot's license as of the last month. And because of the virus, my training has now stopped. And I don't have a projected timeline as such. It all depends. So, that's where I am right now.
Lovely, Uvaksh. Thank you so much for agreeing for the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing. Wow, I can just imagine, considering the industry that your future was aimed towards.
Correct.
How has this been for you?
So it's been a little tough because the lockdown in India started a week after, or a couple of weeks after I left campus, which was in Maharashtra. So I reached home, and within 2 weeks, there was a nationwide lockdown, and all my plans of celebrating, of enjoying, of just having a ball and playing sport and spending time with the ones that I love, all went for a toss. So I mean, that's how it started for me, and that's how it's still continuing, and we don't have an end in future. So
So this is like a huge disappointment. This wasn't the way you saw the
correct?
March,
No,
April, and May
not at
panning
all.
out at all.
Not my June or July, but yeah,
Neither your June. I forget what month we are in.
yeah.
Sorry. So
So
yeah,
yeah.
this has been yeah. What has that felt like in through the
Um.
process?
So I've had days where I've not in the initial few days. I don't think it hit me as to how big this thing actually is, because initially I was just like, oh, this is just going to be for 3 weeks, and then there's not going to be anything, and it didn't. The scale of it didn't quite hit me yet. As much as I'd like to admit that it's wrong that it didn't hit me, it didn't, and I was living kind of in denial that after these 3 weeks everything's going to go back to normal. I'll be able to go play squash or play football or hang out with my friends. But then slowly in those first 3 weeks is when I actually did realize that this is a huge thing and it's affecting almost everybody in the world. And that kind of scared me a little bit because it makes you feel very small. And if you look at it from a very broad perspective, it's not a you problem, it's something that everybody's facing. So yeah, that's what it was like initially.
Feeling small.
Yeah.
Feeling small against this kind of larger, what you want to call it,
um Not
larger
sure.
situation,
Situation,
this
I guess. Yeah.
larger event. Yeah,
Well, it is
feelings.
a pandemic, so yeah.
If you'd like to be technical, yes. So feeling small in the pandemic,
Correct. Yeah.
in the sense that, does that mean?
um
Yeah, what does that mean to
so
be?
like, I can admit that selfishly in the beginning, I'd like to think that it was a me kind of problem, and like, oh, this is happening to me, and what am I going to do, and how am I going to cope with being at home for 3 weeks, and how am I going to cope with not being able to go out and play or run or do the things that I wanted to do or saw myself doing in the future. So that used to kind of get me down and out and have me just like think a lot. But then, so that was kind of like a low for me. But then when I realized that it's not only me, I got comfort in the fact that everybody is in this, and not only people my age, but people say in other people, maybe people actually all age groups. Some of them who are younger might not realize what's happening, but it's affecting everybody. And according to me, this pandemic is definitely going to change the way, at least our generation, because people say that your formative years are, I don't know, your late teens or your early 20s. So people in my kind of generation are definitely going to be impacted, and hopefully positively, by this pandemic. Yeah.
Oh, interesting, that last piece you just shared. It's thinking that your age group will be so severely impacted, but yet what's the positives that you see coming out of
So
this?
so it's definitely making all of us a lot more compassionate and understanding and patient, because that fast, quick-paced life that we were all used to, it's not there anymore. Everybody's at home, everybody's slowed down. Everything is slowed down, and although people do have work that they're doing from home, everything is more on a lower pace. So it's giving people a lot of time to introspect and think about themselves, and I feel that, at least for my generation and other people as well, that it's making us a lot more compassionate, as in we can relate more to what another person is going through, just because we've all gone through this together. Yeah.
It's kind of like the glue that binds us, the commonality
Correct.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one unifying factor that's keeping us all together at home, bored.
A common experience.
Yeah.
So lovely. Compassion, how beautiful.
Yeah.
To come out of this. And I'm just curious, because looking at your future, looking at your options going ahead, I'm just wondering, what are you sensing, or what is this situation asking of you?
Yeah. So if I look at it very realistically, airlines out of India have been firing pilots left, right, and center. That scares me a lot. But it does give me comfort, at least in my field, that every slump has been forwarded by an extreme amount of growth and demand. So I'm hoping that trend continues, and it doesn't affect me too much. But yes, I am weighing the worst case scenario, and there have been days where I'm just thinking, oh, what if this, and when that leads to something else, and that leads to something else, and you just go down that path, and then ultimately you reach somewhere where you're just thinking, why am I here, what am I doing here? So yeah, I mean, it has occurred to me that maybe worst case I don't get into aviation, so what do I do then? So that's something that I am thinking, but I mean, I hope it doesn't come to that.
I hope so too. I hope so too, that you don't have to change course. Yet I'm curious. One second, I'm having a slight technical situation
All right.
with a four-legged animal. One second. um, so tell me about that road that you go on, because it's kind of like, that train of thought sometimes. It's almost
Right.
like when something hits you or strikes you and you're
Yeah.
putting the dots together and you go down that road of,
Right.
what is it? What is that road like? Is it shaky? Is it dark? What's happening in that road when you go down?
So I think a major aspect of it is what lies ahead, because that's a question I'm constantly asking myself. What next? What's going to happen in the next month? What's going to happen in the next 3 months? Going to happen in the next 6 months? Where am I going to be next year? Where's the world going to be next year? Career-wise, where am I going to be next year? So all that uncertainty and the lack of an answer to that question is what scares me, or shakes the train. But I mean, when I do think of it, I think that I'm not limited. I can choose to study, or I can, like, I have other passions as well. I can go forward with those, and I mean, I'm not stuck. So that's a comfort thing for me, really, to know that I'm not stuck. Like, if this doesn't work out, there's nothing that's going to stop me from, say, starting something else. Maybe I'm a little delayed because of these 3 years that I've spent getting my license, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. I've learned a lot of things during these 3 years, which will definitely hold me in good stead later on.
Wow. So you're kind of taking this uncertainty and you're also saying, but I'm not stuck.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where do you think that comes from? Like, no, kind of sounds like a knowing, like, I know I'm not stuck. I see options.
It's kind of like a knowing and also a hope, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I'd rather not be stuck. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing that's stopping me from, say, pursuing a different career or starting studies in a different stream, if it all goes to that. So no, I'm not stuck, and that helps. It helps to know that even if I have to make a drastic change, as a change of careers completely, I know that my parents, my family, my friends, everybody will be behind me. So yeah, that helps as well.
And where do you think that hope comes from, that knowing? I'm just, and take a moment. It's okay. There's no rush to answer. But,
Um,
because that type of a hope, because you're really making a choice to see options.
Correct. Where does the hope come from? I don't know.
And it could
I'm
be
not too sure.
people, it could be experiences, it could be of someone that inspires you, or a story or something that you refer to. It could be a combination of things.
I don't think anything individually hits out, but I do know of many people who have started out in one direction and then ultimately ended up in a completely different place and have done extremely well. I mean, you got to define doing well for yourself, but but there's no hard and fast rule to doing well, right? It just because I've come into aviation for myself doesn't mean that um, the end goal for me, say if this virus determines it, is aviation per se. Would be something else, and that's not in my control, right? It's in the virus's control.
Yeah, it's not in any of our controls,
Yeah,
honestly. It's not only you.
yeah. So that was like an aha kind of moment for me, where the law of realizing that it's not only me and everybody, then that was followed by, oh, it's not just me, everybody's going through this, and look at that, people are doing this, people are doing this, people are doing this, maybe I could do something productive. Not to say that you got to do something productive all the time, but it's good to see, and not only in your family or not only in your, say, in our club group, but even online. It helps a lot.
Yeah, just one of the pieces that you share is this idea that if I change course,
Yeah,
I'll be supported.
correct. And I will. um
There's
I mean,
conviction there.
yeah,
Which is beautiful. I'm so grateful for you that you have such a support system
yeah,
around you.
yeah. I have no doubt that if I do have to change, that my family will be behind me 100%. My friends will be behind me 100%, and they'll just provide me everything I need, to be it advice or knowledge or whatever they can in however small way they can. I mean, it's just good to know that you have these people behind you. Yeah,
Absolutely. How priceless is that? To have support and someone who is always going to be standing behind you.
yeah, priceless.
It is priceless. It's absolutely fantastic. And that speaks a lot, again, to the community that you're in. And
A remarkable community. Yeah,
remarkable. It is. It's fantastic. The big
yeah.
family.
A huge family of just 400, 500.
So, what would you say to, and you really speak from a space in your young 20s of, you're just starting out.
Yeah.
So, and you have that ambition. You clearly have that ambition to want to succeed and do well and contribute. So, what do you want to say maybe to someone your age, or that's really maybe doesn't see as much hope, or maybe doesn't feel as supported as you do for whatever reason?
Well, the one thing that I'd like to say to people, especially my age, actually there are a couple of things, but one of the main things that tend to get, I think, people my age a little down is, how people my age are always on social media, and it's like when you're not doing anything, you're on social media. So Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and you're always seeing sides of people who are doing things, who are showing sides of themselves that aren't the complete picture. They're only showing you parts of a productive them or a productive person. So not to get trapped by that. That, like if I post something on Instagram of me playing, that doesn't mean I'm playing 24/7. I'd be playing for maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, and I could be bored for the other 22 or 20 hours in the day. So that's one thing. And another thing is that not to take it on your own shoulders, because it's not on you that this pandemic has hit the whole world. It's not your fault. And this is something that took me a while to realize as well, that it's not on me that it's a pandemic and that everything's come to a grinding stop. So don't blame yourself, and don't be too harsh on yourself either. So just like take it as it comes, as hard as it might sound. Take a day as it comes. Just take it as it comes. Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful. Really nice. This idea that, and we're just going to close here just momentarily, but it's really nice, looking at social media, things are not always as they appear. And reminding ourselves, and also this idea to not take this pandemic personally. If your plans have been spoiled, not to take it personally.
Correct. Yeah.
Lovely. Vaksh, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks, Anaya.
I just wanted to say that I'm sure your parents will support you in whatever you do, but you always have, like 5,000 of us who are there to hold you, hug you, and tell you that everything is going to be fantastic, because we all love you no matter what you do. And you'll get a lot of advice from us all. Some will be absolutely nonsense, and some may be absolutely amazing.
I'll take it all.
But Jill, I want to say, he's looking like his fittest self ever. I have never seen him look so fit in his life, and this chiseled jawline, and look how handsome he's looking. Just look at him. So I'm so proud of the way he's turned he's taken this as an opportunity to grow and learn and just be Urvaksh.
Thank you.
All the very best to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Anaya.
Thanks. So Jill, up next we have Ratan, and Ratan and his dad, his family, they are the backbone of the community. The community wouldn't be the community without them. And his dad and he I don't know how they do as much as they do, but they are there for everyone all the time. And this community would be not even half as thriving without them. So I'm going to leave you guys to it, but I just wanted to get that in before we started.
That's very exaggerated, but thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's a big introduction, Ratan. Nice to see you here.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, I'm supposed to introduce myself, right?
Please.
I think everyone knows what needs to be known, but I just want to tell everyone who may not realize it that I actually do work, and I do have a small company that I run which does training and consulting. So yeah, in addition to all the other stuff you keep seeing me doing, I do spend a couple of free hours in a day working.
Beautiful. You tell people that you actually work.
Yep.
Not only for the community.
That's right.
Very good. So thank you so much for coming to this conversation.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this for us.
Yeah. And I don't know, where do you want to start the conversation? I know you have a lot of experience speaking in the community, hearing various perspectives from various people, and your heart is very much in this community. So I'm wondering, how do you want to use this time? Like, what can you share with us about your experience?
Yeah, there was something that Urvaksh said that actually sort of struck a chord with me. And I'm obviously a lot older than he is and a lot further down the line of life than he is. But But he talked about how we've become more compassionate and more cognizant of how others react to issues. So this happens to me every once in a while where I realize, oh my God, I was so stupid so many whatever months ago or years ago, and I was uh, so primitive in my thought process or in my whatever emotions or feelings or perceptions a few months ago, and this has actually happened with me during the course of this lockdown, where in the first few weeks I think I adapted very quickly, and I also work from home, so it wasn't unusual for me to be at home during the day. So that helped in the adaptation. But I started hearing stories from friends or about friends where that, so and so is depressed and so is upset and so is bored and frustrated and whatever else. And I was like, why? I mean, what's the problem? Just get on with it. And as I started trying to be the problem solver, I actually got a lot of accidental coaching from a lot of my friends who said, everyone need not think like you, and the way you think need not be right either. So, keep appreciating the fact that everyone has their own way of dealing with things, and your way is not the only way. It might work for you and great, but it might not work for someone else. And yeah, so I think that's something that has really happened over the last few months, where, uh, like I said, I think I thought I was somewhat evolved when it came to recognizing others' feelings and thought processes. But I I realized a few months ago that I have a long way to go, and I realize even more so now that I have a long way to go before being able to truly help others as much as I would want to, because I think a lot just based on my way of dealing with things.
Wow, this has been introspective for you.
Yep. And
Realizing,
I actually, I'll be honest, since our conversation yesterday, I actually decided not to do any. So unlike Urvaksh, who has 3 pages of notes, I have no notes, and I said I'm not going to think about this. I'm going to go in, completely sort of blank and take it as it comes. But when he said that, I said, this is actually really true, and this is something that's happened for me.
no, I like the fact you didn't come prepared. That's how we do this. Yeah, so I'm glad, because we can
Take
make
that,
it more
Urvaksh.
spontaneous. Yeah, that's okay. More spontaneous and more real, And it's interesting you say how you had a way of dealing with the pandemic. You had a particular route. You just were able to, overnight just flip your schedule around, move things around, and adapt yourself. And
So
you did it. Yeah.
one of my most notable traits is that I'm always late, and like punctuality is not at all a skill that I possess. And a part of the reason is because I just don't say no when people ask me to do something. Now, as a result of that, I always have plenty on my plate. So even when this pandemic started, if there was any sort of low-hanging fruit of opportunity to do something that I saw, so including all of these productions that we've put on, I said, yeah, of course I'll do it. And there's something else. There's food to deliver. Yeah, of course I'll do it. So I think that's a trait that I naturally have, and I think, as I mentioned to you yesterday, a lot of it is genetic from my parents. But I think that really helped me at a time like this. That if when I saw an opportunity to do something, whatever it was, in fact, a big motivator for me to do food delivery was that it would be an official permitted way to get out of the house during the lockdown. So yeah, it helped me.
Okay, so I just hear you grabbing at opportunities, and generosity comes to you very easily.
I don't think it's as much as that, but I just like staying busy and doing things. So
Good.
it often leads to good outcomes.
Wonderful. Yeah. But it's interesting to describe it, low-hanging fruit, like almost kind of whatever's coming your way, you go with it.
Yeah, I'm happy to take it on. Like I said, the fact that I have too much to do in a day sometimes infuriates the people I'm dealing with, because when I tell them I'm going to get somewhere at 7, I leave the house at 7. But I guess that's the flip side of the coin.
Can I take permission to go back to one of the first things you were speaking about in terms of compassion?
Sure.
Because this is really interesting. You said how you felt like you had a ways to go to be able to connect with people and their experience, and that you're kind of in the process of learning compassion, as we all are, by the way. But I'm wondering, how have you been compassionate to yourself during this lockdown? Like, how have you given yourself some generosity?
I don't feel I need to do that because I normally only do things that I feel will make me happy. So if I'm keeping on doing that, why would I be sad? Or why would I need compassion?
Right.
I wouldn't do something that I didn't want to do.
Fantastic. No, it's a good check-in. So we check in, there's a distinction sometimes when we're doing for others. The question is are we coming from a full vessel? Are we coming from a place of fullness that we're overflowing? So I just wanted to check in with you that you're full already with the things that you need, so that generosity just kind of pours over with your time or your efforts.
Yeah, the one thing I possibly have done a little more consciously is sleep enough. So I'm a notoriously limited sleeper. I don't sleep as much as I normally do. And that's because I have 4 or 5 early morning starts during the week and I can't sleep early. So that's one thing because I don't have early morning starts anymore. I coach a girls' school soccer team. So because I don't have to do that early in the morning anymore, I'm able to sleep in a bit. And that's possibly the only thing I've consciously done.
And how has that changed with your schedule? It sounds like
I think it gives me more energy to do things. So.
Okay. So one of your takeaway learnings sounds like sleep is important.
Yes. I hope it stays with me once this ends.
So I'm wondering, this grabbing at the low fruit, being really involved in community, taking opportunities that are there, where does that come from you? Because it sounds like it comes really innately and really naturally to you to be able to be involved.
Yeah, I think that 90% is from my parents. There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
Because I've grown, I'm an only child, so I've grown up just seeing that as the way of life. So I don't know of any other way of living. So it's not something I actually try to do. It's just, I guess I've seen it since I was a child, and I still see it with my dad. So I guess it's something that's happened naturally.
Okay. Something that happens naturally.
Yeah.
And tell me about a challenging day, because I know you're like superhero and you're a fantastic contribution for everyone. And I just want you to take me through a rough time. Take me through maybe an instance or realization. We've all had those moments where it's like, ugh, during this pandemic, where it's like, really? Or you can't believe it. So I just want you to take me through maybe some of those shocks or some of those real difficulties that maybe you are not ideal, and maybe how did you kind of cope with it or see it, or the process you went through?
No, I don't think there's been a rough time during the pandemic for me. I think, again, one other thing I should say is that I think all of us who are participating and watching are quite fortunate in the sense that, we don't have to really worry about day-to-day physical necessities of life. And so I think we're really privileged, and at least I'll speak for myself. I think I'm really privileged. We've been lucky to have domestic help at home throughout this as well. So I know a lot of my friends have had to be cooking and cleaning, and I barely did that not cooking, but some cleaning for a few days. But after that, even that got taken care of. So like I said, I understand that I had the luxury of just living as I chose to. So I don't think I've had a struggle during the pandemic, but where I do struggle sometimes, I mean, maybe 2 or 3 things come to mind. One is if, I think sometimes, there are too many fruit in the basket and there's too much to get done. And again, I do procrastinate and don't organize my time as well as I should. So when I end up having, a 9 a.m. work deadline and I start working on it at midnight, I hate myself at those moments. But, I could have done this 2 hours ago or 4 hours ago or 12 hours ago, but I just kept deferring it. So that's something where I don't feel happy in my own skin. I think the other happens when I think people and this is very rare, and there are very, very few people who might do this, but who fundamentally disagree with the intentions behind what I'm doing. I don't have an issue if anyone questions what I'm doing or how I'm doing it. But yeah, I think I sometimes do have an issue when people question the intention behind what I'm doing, because I mean, I should have the confidence to just swat that aside and say, I know what I'm doing is right. But I guess that's also, again, part of me where I want to keep everyone happy and I want to keep everyone together. So when someone questions my intentions, that's when that's something I do struggle to deal with a bit, because I believe my intentions are always honorable. My methods may not be right. My timings may not be right. A lot of other things may not be right. But I always feel that my intentions are right. So don't question my intentions, and I should deal with it easily. I'm old enough to deal with something like that, but sometimes I don't.
So if we have, Sanaya, do we have a few more minutes here? We have 4 or 5 minutes. I think you're on mute, sweetie. It's not coming on. So I'm just going to go from here. So I just want to ask you a little bit about that, if I can do that. Is it okay, Ratan? 2 minutes. So
Also,
I just
if
want
it's a session with me, it has to be delayed, right? It won't be me if it wasn't late. So go
I'm
ahead.
sure the community would love to do like kind of contribute towards you working with Jill on time management issues.
Go ahead.
I actually just wanted to pick up what he was just sharing. We're going to leave the time management to the rest of the group. But how do you know when someone is questioning your intention, or it feels like they're questioning your intention? Because I'm wondering, first of all, if they're doing that. How do you know that they're questioning you? Is it direct?
I think it's quite clear.
It's quite clear.
It's
okay. So then what happens to you in your body when you get that kind of feedback? How do you know that it's a challenging response? Do you feel it in a certain place in your body? Do you have a certain, response? Like, how do you know it's an issue? I'm asking more from a personal awareness perspective.
It's an issue because it bothers me. Otherwise, none of this bothers me.
How do you know it bothers you? How do you know it bothers you?
I think about it.
Okay. So the mind starts ticking.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think about what they said?
No, I think about, how can this person question my intention? I mean,
okay.
It may be ego also. I don't know.
Okay. How can this person question my intention?
Yeah.
And what would you like to? It kind of like, are you feeling misunderstood? What is happening there? Is it a matter of them not understanding you, or of them? What's happening there when they're questioning your intention? And you start.
I don't know. Maybe they're not understanding me. Maybe they have vested interests. I don't know.
Okay. And what would you like to kind of, set out for with these obviously challenging relationships? Relationships are challenging.
Your cat is going crazy behind you.
I know. I might have to let him out of the.
You can. I'll wait.
1 second. He's a little person still.
Yeah.
So anyway, but no, I just want to ask you about that, because it's really interesting, when we're getting feedback and it's challenging, and especially in these times, right? We have an ability to really ruminate about what's going on for us. We really can get stuck in those kind of circles of thought. So I don't know what works for you, or what has worked for you in the past to kind of navigate difference, or difference of opinion, or difference of approach, or misunderstanding.
Well, I'm absolutely okay with difference of opinion. I think it's good. I think if there's too much consensus, you never get the best results. So I think you need to have a difference of opinion. And I think variety is excellent. I mean, it's rightly called the spice of life. So I have no issue with that. And even during the lockdown, if we talk about the lockdown, I think it's fine to have, for different people to have different ways of dealing with it. But somewhere deep down, I feel that each of us has the responsibility to ourselves, maybe, to just make every day as good as possible.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be great, but I think it should just be as good as possible. And I can't see an argument against that.
Good. So make your days good. What does that mean? And then we're going to end here, Sanaya. Make your days good. Because this sounds like your intention for the community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel it should be the intention for everybody, and I say that knowing that everyone has ups and downs, and there are days when bad things happen, and that's fine. But still make the best of that day, or at least plan that day to make the best of the next day. And the best does not have to be compared to someone else. I'd say it's just compared to yourself.
So utilize every day that you have, and if you have a bad day, plan for the next one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ratan.
You're welcome. Pleasure to talk to you.
So, Jill, I wanted to say that we had a crazy cyclone here in Calcutta called Amphan, and there was complete devastation in the Sundarban areas.
I heard about this.
Yeah, and Ratan actually raised a lot of money for the
Oh.
people and for kind of relief work in the Sundarban, and he also took it a step further and went there to visit and actually distribute the stuff, the food, and whatever else that was collected. And it was, I mean, here we are all sitting in our homes, making sure our families are safe, and then you have someone actually going out and making sure that the larger population is safe and well taken care of. So I think that is pretty commendable.
Very commendable. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thinking way beyond himself and taking everybody, not only their community, but everybody as community.
Yeah.
All of humanity. So that's beautiful. I'm so glad.
My fundraiser is still open. So guys, please contribute.
Send me the link.
Will do.
So I wanted to say that tell the audience that all our three interviewees will be back at the end, and you can all ask questions, and there'll be a little Q&A round a little later. Just want to put that out there so everyone knows that Urvaksh and Ratan will be back. And our next interviewee is a very, 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 very dear person. So he's one of my dad's closest friends, but even though he is my dad's friend, he was always my baby. I mean, he's just like the sweetest, most lovable person I know. And he was my first slow dance partner, and I have a photo of that even to prove it. And he just, whenever he used to be on the ships earlier, and whenever he came to town, it was like the best few months of my brother and my lives. He used to be there with us all the time, and he make us just spoil us and play with us, and he just belonged to us. He was just ours. So I'm so glad he's here today. I mean, my darling Jumbo uncle. So over to you, Jumbo uncle. Just say a few words about where you are in your life, and then we'll continue from there.
Hi, Sanaya. Hi, Jill.
Hi.
Those were wonderful words and brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah.
Where am I in my life? Where will I be? At 69, I don't work anywhere. I don't play any games, you know why. And at the moment, I'm looking forward to having a conversation with Jill.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jimbo. Thanks for coming out. I know you're very well loved, and you are very well loved and cherished in your community. So it's fantastic to have you here. Thank you so much for agreeing to have a chat. So, Jimbo, how has this lockdown been for you? How has life changed for you since lockdown?
Hasn't?
It hasn't.
No.
It hasn't changed.
Where do I go that life will change for me? I'm at home most of the time, and I'm still at home most of the time. Well, all of the time I'm at home now. And, I used to go out thrice a week before the pandemic. I teach music to underprivileged children thrice a week, and unfortunately that's come to a halt. I miss it, and I'm sure they miss it too. But apart from that, everything is at a standstill, like for everybody else.
Okay. So you're missing your, well, I know you sing a lot and I know you contribute a lot at all the events, and everybody always looks forward to seeing you there, knowing that you'll be an absolute participant, like a confirmed participant. So how has it been to be kind of maybe not participating in those community events? Because it sounds like that's something that's very common in the club.
But we've gotten used to it, and most of us are just doing what we normally do without going out. We can't go out. So that's it.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, as you know, I'm in bed 24/7, apart from coming out to have dinner on in the wheelchair or something like that. And I watch a lot of news, and I have to be very honest with you, this coronavirus, when I hear the news, it depresses me a lot. I really, really feel depressed. So
Yeah,
we have to cope with it. We have to cope with it. There's nothing we can do about it.
sure. Yeah. So the news really kind of hits you. It really impacts you when you see what's happening around and you hear all of the impact that it's having in India, your community, globally. Yeah, so it hits you.
Especially when it hits you near home, because today I heard that there was a case right outside my gate. Very frightening. Really,
Okay.
very frightening.
Yeah. So it's scary to know that the sickness is close to us. The virus is very much around. Yep.
But life goes on.
And just in a moment and just in a flash, you seem to go from one mood to the next mood.
No point in being depressed all the time.
Okay. So what allows you to kind of feel in both places? Because I feel like you can really touch into that deeper place, that, feeling worry, feeling fear, feeling some lowness. So I appreciate you being so honest, but yet you seem to automatically flip yourself over and say, well, what about the other side?
Well, if I had to brood over what's been happening around me all the time, I think I'd go off my head. So
Okay.
fortunately, my wife, my son, I read the papers, I watch movies, I somehow or the other get through the day. And it makes a big difference. I wouldn't say I am an alarm clock, but I'm like an alarm clock, because my eldest son, who's in Bombay, Dad, 9:45. Then at 9:45, I call him, Dad, 10 o'clock. So I know what I have to do every day.
Okay.
And that motivates me. Actually, it motivates me that yes, somebody is depending on me.
Okay. So you have those people around you that count on you. They look to you. And you want to be there for them.
Of course. Of course I do.
So I know, Jimbo, that you have, sailed around the world and have had so many life experiences and seen so much of the globe. Yes, during your seafaring days. And I know life has changed for you enormously. Yep, I believe for the past decade or so.
Yep.
And considering that, you've said, you have those moments where you're feeling high and low, where you're feeling kind of like you can contribute, but also, just wondering what can you do in this situation? What do you think this Corona thing, this situation, what is it teaching us? What is it here for? I'm asking because you're the wisdom piece from the wisdom angle. What is it here for? What is it here to teach us? What do you think? Just play with me here.
Firstly, is it human error? We don't know. Is it in the atmosphere? Everyone says yes. So how did it get into the atmosphere and where is it going? Where are we going? When is it going to end? Everyone is asking all these questions. So nobody really knows. And it's scary. It's very scary.
So that I know you and many of us in the group that we're listening to feel the same way. We don't know where it is. We don't know where it's going. So what grounds you in those moments when you realize it's nearby or it's in my building? What are your sources that ground you?
We just have to be very careful, very alert. Anyone who comes now to the door, we take their temperature, we do everything possible to make sure that they are safe. Nothing more we can do.
Interesting. You're making a clear distinction about what can we do, how can we be proactive and aware and vigilant, and where can't we, where we can't control. So knowing your realm of control, it sounds like.
There are a lot of things we can't control, which is beyond our limitations. So we just have to live with that. There's nothing we can do.
What do you think would happen if we started really living with the virus, like living with it as it is? Like living with it in a different way, from a different mindset of it's here.
It's here. Where is it going? How long will it last? And it's frightening. Like I said, it's very frightening.
Yeah, we don't have answers to all those questions.
No, unfortunately.
So as a community, knowing that everyone is in the same, we're all kind of in this same circumstance. And I hear you, asking everyone to be vigilant and aware so that everybody stays safe. I don't know, what can you hope for either your community, Calcutta, India, the world? What's your greatest hope with all of this?
We have a very small community over here, the Parsis, and we are a very close-knit community. We care for each other. So I know that if anyone had to reach out for help, they get it. There's no two ways about that. They will definitely get it. Whether one gets the virus or one is not able to go to a hospital or something or the other, we will always help out no matter what. And that, I think, makes us a happy community. To know that we can count on others.
So especially to those people who might be living alone, yes, especially those people. So you want to maybe make a shout out to all of those people, that reminding them that everybody is in this together. And okay. And what else do you want to tell some of those people that are struggling or just feeling alone in this situation?
Don't give up hope. Never give up hope. If you give up hope, you're hopeless.
I think you've had some life experiences that have been pretty traumatic as well. And, I remember you shared one of your seafaring days being shipwrecked and all kinds of things.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
I think I told you I love the sea. I used to love the sea. And on one of my ships, we came across a terrible storm. It actually, and that was a huge ship. It was about 300 meters long, the length of 3 football fields. And we were carrying iron ore, and the iron ore was shifting in the hold, and the sea was so rough. Eventually, we lost control, the engines wouldn't start, and we were drifting towards land. This was off the Irish coast. I think it was 1987. And fortunately for us, our SOS was picked up by 2 helicopters who came, and within 2 hours, and it was in the middle of the night, within 2 hours, we were all airlifted off the ship.
Wow.
And winched up. And I remember at that time, I was really huge. And with the wind, before I could come to the door of the helicopter, I was being blown under the belly of the helicopter. And I thought to myself, oh my God, don't tell me that I've come all the way up here not to make it to the top. But all's well that ends well.
Yeah, so you were taken care of. Those helicopters came to rescue.
Yep.
And like you said, we need a little bit of hope. We need to find that glimmer of hope and know that someone's going to hear our SOS.
What made my hair stand was when we reached Cork Airport in Ireland. One of the pilots told me, we rescued you, your ship went down in exactly the same position that one of our Air India aircraft crashed. Exactly there we went to rescue the Air India passengers. And that was really something, I don't know what you call it.
The mysteries of life, even this virus, even what we're experiencing is kind of a mystery.
True.
It's
And
really, mysteries don't really necessarily have answers.
Well, very soon I hope this mystery becomes a history.
Amen.
Amen, yeah.
Thank you, Jimbo, for sharing.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Jimbo uncle, did you ever think of becoming a pirate?
Yeah, I did.
You'll be the cutest pirate in the world. I'm just imagining you with an eye patch and.
Oh, pirate! I thought you said pilot.
No, pirate. Think of becoming a pirate. Can you imagine him as a pirate? Oh my God, he'd be like the worst pirate, I think.
You've forgotten the time when I used to have a ponytail?
No, I remember.
And then
his ponytail was filled with lice and lice eggs because he didn't wash it.
Lice eggs, and then you just chopped it off. Those were the days.
Thanks, Jimbo, for sharing. Appreciate that.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Urvash. Thank you, Ratan. Thank you, Sanaya. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be bringing all of you back on in just a few minutes. Before that, Jill, I just wanted to ask you if you wanted to share something before we go into the final Q&A, or should we just roll right into it?
I think we can roll right into it.
Super. Okay. So then, Ratan, shall we will bring everyone back on screen?
Yep, we're back.
Yeah.
Thank you all for sharing with the community. It's been a really, really lovely conversation. And we have a few questions. Urvaksh, you want to start with the first one?
Yeah, you want me to call out the questions or?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. So the first question we had was from Benaz. Well, there's one for Ratan and one for myself. I'll call out Ratan's first. Post this lockdown, what's the one thing that you will take back with you and something you discovered about yourself?
I think it just reaffirmed the fact that I think I can adjust to pretty much anything.
All right. The question for me was, what was the one thing that brought me peace and happiness? I don't know. Going on my terrace and listening to music is one. Going out for a run, yeah, as long as it's allowed, is another one. Spending time with my family is another one. Anyway,
Let me say something to that answer, that question, Urvash. So I know it was not asked to me, but I'm taking the liberty of answering. And Jimbo, also, if you have something to add, and Jill, you as well, Sanaya, you as well. I think I've found that what gives me general peace and happiness is just staying occupied.
Yeah, I agree.
And it doesn't have to be with work. It doesn't have to be with doing something productive. I mean, I spend a long time. I mean, many hours a day reading about or watching or playing sport, and that's not productive in that sense. But as long as it keeps the mind occupied, I think it's good enough to give you. It's that thing about the idle mind being a devil's workshop. I think that's absolutely spot on. So try and have something to do, and Jimbo talked about it as well, where he organizes his day and makes sure that he keeps to that routine, and I think that really helps him, and I feel that really helps me. There are some days when I'm doing nothing, and I look back on, say, the previous 3 hours and say, oh God, I've really done nothing today, and I've wasted this time, and that's frustrating. But as long as you're busy doing something and your mind is occupied, I think that'll always give peace and happiness.
No, I just wanted to share that in my household, most days, every alternate day, the morning starts with my brother. He says, there are 4 kids at home. So he says, you have to be ready at this time, and we're going to start the workout at, if he says 6:15, then 6:15, then he gives us even a waking up time. You will wake up at this time, be ready at this time, and we'll start working out at this time. And his workout, you're not allowed to smile or talk or chat. You have to be very focused, and you have to run for an hour. And then we continue with school. But 1 hour of that military training has made us all disciplined. We are always on time, and we're all super fit now. So he's really my brother has been amazing in this lockdown. He's really got us all into shape and a very regimented, disciplined lifestyle. And my dad is always smiling, always happy, and he's kind of has this blood group which is B positive. And so that's just his style as well. My son also has the B positive blood group, and they're both always happy, smiling, and chill out. No matter what is happening, they're like, it's cool. What's next? We're happy to take whatever as it comes. So, and my husband's forever on the yoga mat, meditating, and I don't know what he does, but half the day goes on the yoga mat, and I'm like, I need to start this yoga and meditation now. It's a great way to cope. So even I've started that. So I have a lot to share. So I just jumped right in.
I think, for me, that all of this speaks to routine. And not only just like any routine, but the routines that really matter most to us. So if exercise means a lot to you, you go for it. If meditating does, if singing does, or if once a week on the no, or Jimbo. I know we have some singers in the group, but whatever matters most to you, making sure that the day includes those bits and pieces that matter most and give you the most back. So, having a lot more meaning in the day, where you complete the day and you feel like when you reflect, you have something in that day that really connected with you. So, I don't know. A lot of people also speak to, this is self-care. When we do the things that matter most to us, it's actually us taking care of ourselves. So I guess we can just really, I can ask everybody that's listening to really reflect and ask themselves if they're doing the things that matter the most to them to take care. Are they having the food routines or whatever their doctors are telling them to do? Are they sincerely following it for their own benefit? So taking the best advice for themselves.
Should I move on to the next question? All right. This question is from Charmeen from London, and it's for everyone. What advice would you have for teenagers to deal with this lockdown? Jim Uncle, you want to start?
69 years old. What do I know what teenagers do today?
Oh, but if you had a suggestion for a teenager on how to deal with this, what would it be?
Be cool, read the papers, be compassionate, understand what's going on, and discuss it with your friends, your parents. Try and not think too much about it. Because if you do,
Can I share one thing here?
Yeah, it's for
I
everyone.
have a client in Switzerland, and one of the things that she shared with me at the beginning of lockdown was she was listening to 10 minutes of news a day. She limited herself to 10 to 15 minutes of news a day on from the TV. So she says, I'm keeping to this. It's enough to feel like I'm informed, but not enough to make me feel overwhelmed. And I did this actually in the first 6 weeks or so of lockdown. I really limited my viewing time only because I wanted to know what was going on, but I didn't want to get too much into the conversation so that I felt overwhelmed. So that was one of the things too, is limit the media that we take in at times, because it can be a bit too much.
I have a teenage girl at home as well. My daughter, she's 13, and very similar to Charmin's daughter, Eliza. And I mean, her days are chock-a-block. I don't know how and why that's happening, but from the morning till the night, she is so busy. By the time it's like 9 or 10, she's like, let me be. I need to watch some TV, not news, but whatever. She says she's a 70s child, so 70s music or 70s shows. But I don't know. I don't know. Teenagers live in a different bubble. So maybe they are finding difficult to cope, but I know that they're really busy.
Ratan?
I'd say don't waste time. That's the advice I'd give anyone who's sort of in school or college or even starting their careers or whatever. Just don't waste time. It will not come back to you. Someone gave me this advice when I went into business school, and they were spot on. That 1 year went by without my even realizing it. So do as much as you can with your life. And I think if Samara is spending the whole day doing stuff, it's a good thing. As long as you sleep enough, be active for the rest of the day.
All right, I'll answer it as well. So the one thing that I want to make sure that teenagers know is that this thing, even though it might stick around for a long time, it's not going to stick around like this for a long time. So you're going to get past it. So when you're past it, try and think of what it's going to be like thinking about your lockdown days. Oh, remember when I was in lockdown? This is what I did, or this is what I did, or this is what I did. So look forward to better days, because better days will come. Yeah, that's my advice. Okay, I'll move on. Next question. For Jimbo Uncle, you're a living example of love, kindness, forgiveness, and happiness. No matter what life throws at you, you always come out a winner. Can you give us one secret to how you always stay so positive and happy?
I don't have much to do. I lie in bed the whole day. I am a happy person. I like to have happy thoughts. And like I said, watching the news really depresses me. So now, like Sanaya said, don't watch the news. That's how I am.
Thanks. All right, this question is for Jill. The question is, even though it's easy to say to focus on the better and the good things during these times, how do you suggest one does so during these difficult times, taking into consideration that this question is coming from somebody my age? Like, it's not from somebody who's already established in their career or in life.
I might have a little bit of a very different answer to this. I hope it's okay. Maybe a very different one than all the hope and that we've been sharing. If that, there's a couple of things, 2 points. One is, our mind works in such a way that we have a negativity bias, which means, if you've ever heard this description before, how negative things that are coming in kind of stick to us like Velcro, which means they kind of hang around. And sometimes the good things, the compliments, the achievements kind of just slippery slide off our backs and kind of just keep going down the river. So one thing is to just be aware that if you're getting stuck somewhere, just know that those negative thoughts have a tendency to stick around. And I think the ratio of, if anyone have heard of negative bias, it's like 5 or 6 good things need to happen for every perceived negative thing. So we need a lot more positive thoughts, like Jimbo's talking about. We need a lot more positive perspective, mindsets, events in the day to overcome even one negative thought or negative event or negative outcome. So just know that negativity bias is scientific. You can do some research about it and find out about it if you want, but the mind tends to cling to negative things. So don't feel bad, sweetheart, that you're feeling negative about something. It's normal. The question is what do we do about it? And here's the second point I'll make briefly. And this idea that if you're really getting troubled by something, it might be worth kind of going into that a little bit and seeing what is it about for you, where it comes from, what you're really worried about. What is there really getting to the root of the trouble? What's troubling you? So maybe doing a little inquiry and asking yourself, what's the real worry? What's the real fear? And maybe just kind of experiencing it a bit. Because we spend a lot of time running away from the discomfort, thinking that it's bad to be there, when actually sometimes we need to just kind of be with it and sit with it. Maybe we need to journal, maybe we need to talk to a friend, or if it's really been over a period of time, reach out to someone and speak to someone about it. You're definitely not in this alone, as this community speaks to. So, but sometimes we have to go like through something in order to get out to the other side. So it's almost like we need to kind of face whatever it is that's troubling us. So have courage.
I remember somebody once told me it never hurt anyone's eyesight to look at the brighter side of life. And I always remember the words.
There are, I think, 2 more questions. Do we have time, Nathan? Is that fine? Yeah, all right. This next one's also for Jill. When you hit rock bottom, what is the one thing that you can tell yourself so you can stand up ready to face life again?
Oh, bottom. For anyone who's been there, you say, bottom, that place, that dark place. I think, I don't want to get too cliche, but one of the things you think about is, all it takes in a dark room is just a little speck of light. All it takes when we're in bottom, it's dark. When we're in bottom, we don't see a way out. When we're in bottom, we are in a place of hopelessness, and it's very real for us. So I would say, if you're there, you're there. Be with yourself there. Acknowledge that you're there. And sometimes this whole wanting to get out of it even keeps us there longer. I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but then I would just ask you, if there was light, what would it look like? What would it be? What would the light be for you? What is the things that you imagined, that you wanted or envisioned in your life? Know yourself, know the things that are light for you, and see what happens. See how you feel when you spend some time thinking about your visions and thinking about your hopes. Put some words around it, journal about it. But this dark place, you're not alone. I think that's the most important thing to realize when you're there. You're never alone in that place. I've reached a certain bottom in my life at some point, transitioning my life to India and starting various careers. I've definitely hit lows. So, and places where you didn't know if it was ever going to end. So this is life, and it's hard, and this community is really a blessing. So I encourage you to reach out to whoever you can connect with and share.
All right. I'll move on to the last question. This question says, I think it's been normalized that during this lockdown, we must be productive. We must do things and try something new and learn a new skill or something. Do you think that this can also affect people negatively and or put a pressure on the person? And the person says that personally, I think it's also important for people to know that it's absolutely okay if they're not hustling 24/7, and that it's okay to just watch a TV show on Netflix 24/7 and not feel pressure to do something just because we have the free time. That's for you, Jill.
I'm actually of this thought process actually. I've spent my whole life achieving and doing. And now I've reached this point where I realize I need to balance it out with kind of my being. I need to balance my life out with all the doing and spend some time not doing. So I completely hear what you're saying. I'm also a person too that puts a lot of pressure on myself to do. I think it's ingrained um, in how I grew up and how we have been really trained to be so independent. But there is a lot of value for giving ourselves space to be. And there are a variety of ways of doing that. Your place of being might be painting or reading or watching TV. The question is that giving you what you need? Or is it just completely switching you off? So, the mindlessness also can make us feel dull. Sitting in front of a screen for endless hours, yeah, you can do that if you want, but how does it make you feel? So if you do want to switch off and not be productive, I would be curious to know what that would be. What is it that you can do? And I know we have a lot of restrictions being at home and we don't have accessibility to all of what we normally do, but I'm totally in agreement with you. This putting pressure on productivity for, certain personality types, it doesn't benefit them. It puts extra added pressure that maybe can exacerbate also things like anxiety and overwhelm and things like that. So absolutely in agreement. We do need to take some time and be quiet. Like Sanaya is saying, like, what's my husband doing on that yoga mat? He spends a lot of time there. Meditation is a perfect example of getting out of the having to do. We actually need to experiment with that because there's another realm and another space there that exists. And I would encourage anyone who's kind of curious about it or is wondering what all the hype is about, give it a go. Because there is something to be said there. So absolutely. Don't feel like you have to be overproductive. Prioritize to do the things that make you feel the best and leave the rest.
Just one thing that I'd like to add to this, sorry, Sanaya, is that if you're say completely productive is 100% and not being productive is 0, it's fine to be somewhere in between as well. Doing maybe a little bit a day or something just doesn't mean that you're not productive, and it's fine to just do that little bit. So yeah, that's my take on it, and that's something that I've learned myself in this. Yeah.
Jill, what I wanted to say was I realized that, we're so busy living when there was no pandemic. We're just so busy just doing stuff, from morning to night. Everything is chock-a-block. I mean, at least for most of the people that I know, and it just like always busy doing something. And now that we've come to a standstill, you realize that so much of it was just not even meaningful. And now you're sitting and you're quiet and you have so much time to reflect. And what if you're not the person that you wanted to be, or what if you're not happy with the person that you've become, mentally, quietly inside of yourself? You're not what you expected for yourself. How do we pull ourselves out of that and move on to a more to a place where we actually want to be? How do we move our minds? How do we progress? How do we move on the path to happiness? I wanted to end with that because it's such an important thing, and that you may be unhappy with whatever, and you may be reaching out and lashing out, and you may be doing whatever you're doing without realizing it. But how do we be conscious of it, and how do we move from there to a space where we're happy with who we are and how we are and how we live our lives?
Yeah, the inner contentment, the inner satisfaction or happiness, so to speak. It's interesting that it's a tricky question you ask. But the first thing you have to realize, in the first part of what you said, is first we have to realize that we're not okay, or there's something about life that isn't matching up. Like, we have to admit to ourselves that this isn't shaping up the way I want it to, maybe it's a career or some situation you find yourself in. We have to really say, is this really what I want? And we have to kind of come, face to face with our discomforts. So depending on the level, I mean, coaching is great for this. You can bring it to a coach. You kind of start out on the personal development route. You start out on the inner investigation, because a lot of times when we reach a certain age after so many years of working or so many years of life experience, it's normal to hit a wall, so to speak, or you hit a place in life where you start asking, is this what I thought it was going to be? And if it's not, then it's just a call. It's like awakening moment for you to look at it and say, okay, well, if this is not what I wanted it to be, then what's stopping me from, I got myself here, I can get myself out, or I can move myself forward. So it's a personal development route, understanding yourself, whatever that might be. There are so many different ways to, whether that's a psychometric test, or whether that's a coach, or whether that's some personal investigation, reading, or whatnot. But we start asking ourselves a lot of these questions about, like I did with the discovery process with these three gentlemen before, where we find out, what makes me tick? What are my values? What are the things that determine how I make my decisions? It's kind of like you have to decode your own self after you have enough of life experience. And you can do this at any stage. It's, or actually you can do this now, come to know yourself at your age now, but this often happens in late 30s, early 40s or later, where you just kind of think that I'm not heading down the path of my fulfillment. So, I mean, it's a good thing to know you're there, first of all, but we need a lot of courage to kind of change routes. So I don't want to be too prescriptive about how to do it, but you just need to answer your own call to change. So a lot of times I meet clients at that position. I meet people come to me and say, this isn't quite right. And it might just be a certain aspect of their life that they just say, this isn't working out, my career, my relationship, my something. I need to work on it. Obviously, it's all interconnected, we come to find out. But there's a lot of empowerment from knowing yourself better. There's a lot of empowerment that comes from understanding how this mind works within you, what's most important to you, how you operate, how you navigate. And yeah, I'm of a conviction that when we know ourselves deeply and we have a kind of intimate relationship with ourselves, it really changes the way we interact with the world. It changes the way we see the world. So the more deeply you know yourself, the more deeply actually you can connect with everything around you, which is so beautiful. That's where, the depth of life really sits, right? And all of you have that deep connection with humanity, but, sometimes it's a process we need to go through, knowing ourselves to know truth, to know reality a little bit more closely. So this is a call. If someone is having discomfort in life, it's a call, it's a sign, it's a symbol. The question is do we answer it? Or do we just let it pass? Like, oh, this is life. A lot of people do that. They say that this is just how life is. And that's also a choice. If you really want to improve it and you really want something new for yourself, go for it. What's stopping you?
I
Some
guess
people,
sorry.
Some people say take life as it comes.
Of course.
The cards are dealt to you, you play your hand.
Yeah. So, the only thing the good thing out of this pandemic has been that we've all come face with ourselves. I think all of us have gotten to know our own selves better, and we've got a better understanding of who we are and where we are in our lives. At least I have, and I'm assuming that a lot of us have as well. And what I also realized was how fantastic our small little community is, because we are never alone. Literally every day in the evening, we are on this workout group, and every weekend we are on something organized by Ratan and Urvaksh and Mum and Benaz and a bunch of others who are so amazing in making sure that everyone has something to look forward to, every couple of days. So this journey of self discovery, as well as this journey of being sort of enveloped and like hugged by your community, even though you're not there physically, we are all there connected and so close to each other. And I think that's huge, and it's such a special bond that we have. And just before ending, I wanted to ask you, is there like a happiness mantra that I can just like switch on the happiness?
Happiness mantra. I mean, you have to create it for yourself. I think everybody would have their own unique happiness mantra. But I would say, know what it is. So when you need to turn on that switch, you can state change, because it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you, everyone. Ratan,
Thank you,
Jimmo, Akul, and
Sanaya.
Anak, thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Jill.
much for being
Thanks,
here.
guys. Thank you.
Jill,
Great
you
show.
were
Thank you, Jill.
amazing, and this process of discovery and learning and sharing has been really fruitful. So thank you. And I'm sure the community has a lot to take away. It's been a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Hope
Thank
to
you.
connect with all y'all soon. Okay.
All of you
Thank
take
you.
care, stay safe.
You
Yes,
too.
I wanted to add that if you have any questions or you want to talk to Jill, you can email her. We'll send you her email ID. Or Raksh has it. Ratan also has it. So if you want to ask her questions, reach out to her. She'll be happy to help, right, Jill?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll share whatever resources I have.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
See
night.
you.